Okay, so just taking up the 3 questions from the homework really quickly because it got cut off and the answers got cut off on the handout. So in 11b said 5y cubed and bracket negative x to the power of 4 when x is -2 and y is -1. Okay. Whenever you do a substitution, you need brackets. You need to put brackets around that number. So when I substitute the -1 for the y, I put it in bracket. I substitute this -2 in for x, I put it in brackets. This -2 has nothing to do with this negative out here. So be very careful. This is very tricky. Okay, so I'm only replacing the x with the number. So that's why there is like a double negative. Okay, so when you do that, you get positive 16. And then with that negative on the outside, it's -16. So when you multiply it, you get 80. Okay, Safir, can you go back to your spot? Can you go back to your seat? Okay. Okay. D was very confusing with the brackets. So like you can see, like I have 3 brackets around here. That's because I have to substitute the y with a bracket and the x with a bracket. But within that, there's this bracket and this bracket. So that's why you see this whole bunch of brackets right here. Okay. So you have to do the y minus x first. So -1 minus -2, which gives you 1. Times it by 2, you get the 2. So -10 minus 2, you get -12. And then 4 plus -12 means 4 minus 12, so you get -8. Okay. And then the last one, this one looks really confusing. Okay, but it's actually one of the easier one out of the 3. Okay, so the key is remember to put in brackets. So y was -1, so substituting those in. Whenever it's an odd exponent, what happens to the negative number? It says negative. What happens if it's an even exponent? That negative number becomes positive, right? So on the top, odd exponent, odd exponent, odd exponent. So it's just -1, -1, -1. So when you subtract it, you get -3. On the bottom, it just becomes +1 plus 1 plus 1. So you get 3. -3 divided by 3 is -1. Now I know on the test, this is what a lot of people like to do. They leave this as their final answer. All right. If you write this as your final answer, you're gonna get half a mark off. This is divisible. So whenever it's divisible or reducible, you have to simplify. Okay. I've taught this course for like the 10,000 times. I know a lot of people leave it like this. Right. So don't get fooled. Make sure you reduce. Okay. How many of you got these 3 answers? 80, -8, and -1 for all 3. Awesome. Okay, good job. Any other questions from the homework you want me to go over? Okay, so if there are, you can come up to me later on in the period and I can go over it with you individually. Okay, so today's handout. Yes, that's why I said you need a binder because I give you a lot of paper. So we talked about improper fractions and mixed number. You do need to know how to go from one form to the other interchangeably. Okay, so one of the questions from your homework yesterday dealt with a number line like this. So in a mixed number form, 1 and 3/4 would mean 1 whole. And then since the line is broken up into 4 parts, each part is a quarter. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So this is 1 and 3/4. We can also write this as an improper fraction. So if every number is broken up into 4 parts, if you count it, 1 part, 2 part, 3 part, 4 part, 5 part, 6 part, 7 part. So 7 over 4, which is the same thing. Okay, so similarly with this one, if this is 9 over 4, what is this as a mixed number then? Yes? 2 and a quarter, right? So 2 and a quarter. Okay. When you write the mixed numbers, I need to see that the whole number is a bigger one. So don't write it and make it look like 21 over 4. Okay, so make sure I can tell that the whole number is a whole number. Okay, so how do we convert from so obviously we don't want to be drawing number lines for every single question. So there's a mathematical way to calculate to change from one form to the other. So if I want to convert from a mixed number to an improper fraction, I would times and then add. So 6 times 4 plus 1, and you get 25. Your denominator stays the same. So then 4 and 1/6 is the same as 25 over 6. Right? Because 6 times 4 and then plus 1. You get that. Okay, similarly, to go from improper fraction to a mixed number, we have to do long division. Who remembers long division from like grade 6? Good. Okay, if you remember it, good job. If you don't, we'll refresh your memory right now. Right, so you have to basically think about how many times 5 goes into 14. So 5 on the outside, 14 on the inside. It goes in 2 times. So 5 times 2 is 10. So when you subtract it, you have a remainder 4. So this is your whole number. This 4 is your numerator. And this 5 is your denominator. Okay? Divide the top number by the bottom number. So let's let's try this out. So 5 and 1/4. How do I change this to an improper fraction? Yep. Good. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 plus 1, 21 over 4. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay. To change this to a mixed number, I have to do long division. What number goes on the outside? The 5 or the 13? The 5. Yep, so 5 and then 13. How many times does 5 go into 13? 2 times. So 2 times 5 is 10 with a remainder of 3. Okay, so how do I write this out now? Now that I have the 2, the 5, and the 3. Anybody? Yep. 2 and 3 over 5. 2 and 3 over 5. Perfect. That's it. Okay. Take 2 minutes. Do these 4. Okay. So I'm just picking on people. Andre. 34 over 15. Perfect. Vincent, number 4. Perfect. Okay. Number 5. Isaac. Good. And Sean, number 6. Perfect. Okay. And if you have questions on these ones, let me know during the class today, and we can make sure we get you on track, that you understand what to do. All right. So now that we know how to convert, we're gonna use what we know to multiply and divide mixed numbers. Right. So this is the main part of the lesson today. the multiplying and dividing mixed numbers. Okay. When we do this, what we want to always do first is change it to an improper fraction. So change these to an improper fraction. So 5 times 2 is 10. 10 plus 3, 13 over 5. Same thing with this fraction. Change it to an improper. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. So 5 over 4. Okay? When you multiply fractions by another fractions, you multiply across like this. So the 13 times the 5 and the 5 times the 4. Okay? If your elementary school teacher is really good, she would have taught you guys to reduce. Let's say, oh, I didn't catch that. It's okay. I didn't catch that at the beginning, so I just did the 13 times 5, which is, what's that? 13 times 5, 65. And then 5 times 4, 20. Okay? And then I can, even though I didn't reduce here, I can reduce in my final answer. It's okay as long as you reduce somewhere in your steps. So I can divide both top and bottom by 5 because I can reduce this fraction. And when I reduce it, I get 13 over 4 as my final answer. Okay, so again, it doesn't matter if you cross out the 5s here and then write your answer or reduce afterwards. As long as you reduce somewhere, you'll get the same answer. Okay, let's try this one. This one is a dividing. So 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 2, you get 14. So 14 over 3 divided by 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 4, you get 9. So I get 14 over 3 divided by 9 over 5. Alright. So it's a division. How do I divide fractions? Yep. How? Good. Yeah. So there's something called keep, change, and flip. Okay. So almost KFC, but KCF. Alright. So keep the first fraction, 14 over 3. Change the sign. So instead of dividing, I'm going to change it to times. And I'm going to flip the second fraction. So instead of 9 over 5, it's now 5 over 9. Okay. And now if you look at this, it's the exact same format as example 1. So I multiply across. 14 times 5 divided by 3 times 9. Oh no, my